This is a lesson on slur scales and slur scales in triplets. And you can learn from the video for free, but feel free to pick up my technique book. There's a link for that under the video and has tons of other exercises, of course. So slur scales are just scales that have upper auxiliaries attached to them. In this case, we're using triplets. So if we have a D major scale, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, then each one of those notes will get a little tiny upper auxiliary note and then return. So it'll go D, E, D, E, F sharp, E, F sharp, G, F sharp, G, A, G, etc., up through the scale. And it forces you to do hammer-ons and pull-offs, or ascending or descending slurs, in combination with getting all these notes. So it's a great way to combine your slur practice along with a more traditional musical context, such as a scale and such as might appear in repertoire, right? We do so many organized slur exercises, but that's a little out of context because usually repertoire is like traveling all over the place, it's playing within a key, and that's what these slur scales do. They're putting slurs into the context of a key signature and really works the different combinations of the fingers. So make sure you've worked on all of the open string slur exercises in my book before this. Not just open string, but closed string slurs as well, but the very pattern-oriented ones. You know, we went through like just making sure each of your groups are working really well together. We did horizontal ones. And we did tons of different styles of slurs, right? And then I think the next step after mastering those slurs is to put them in the context of a scale, which makes a really great daily warm-up that works various different parts of your technique, everywhere from right hand to left hand work to shifts as well. So let's go over the couple of slur scales that I've included in the book. And I've only included a few, but you could of course apply this to any scale or exercise by just putting that upper note in there. So the first one is D major, and we kind of talked about it already. One way you could practice this is just doing each group individually with a little pause between them, just to make sure you're doing the slur cleanly. That's the first one. And then back down the scale. Like I said, if you're having any trouble with these slurs, you might want to practice some easier slur exercises first. Because I wouldn't start with slur scales to improve your slurs. Master those easy slur exercises and then use these as a kind of an accumulation of your skills. G major, again, just one octave and it stays in position. Of course, feel free to go faster or slower depending on what you're working on. Slow practice is the most important though. C major, this one involves this is the first one with shifts in it. I've kind of chosen the keys to get harder and harder as we go, so this one includes a shift. So let's do it in small blocks first. Shift, shift, A major 2 octaves. Now, as soon as you add another octave into the mix, it's going to be more difficult because it just covers more area of the fretboard. There's more shifts involved, so it's just a little bit more complex. This key also has a bit of a issue in terms of like getting from one slur pattern to the next one. It's a bit of a stretch and a weird shift. So let's isolate it. Here it is. We have to jump down here. Shift, and then you'll proceed back down. So getting from here over to here, there's no avoiding it. If we keep shifting up, we run into problems too. At some point, you have to just jump down. There's no big solution, you just have to smooth it out. It's a weird shift, right? It's a bit of a distance, so you just have to isolate that section and work on it a little bit. C major 2 octaves, again, just involves more shifts. Again, just a couple of places where you have to like leap out with a certain finger, and there's no avoiding it. So like I said, if you're having trouble with these, go back and practice the easier slur exercises, and then you can try to accomplish these. Let me just go through that slowly though for you. Shift, shift, and then of course piece it together. G major 3 octaves is much more of a challenge because at the top of the scale, you have some, well, it's difficult to play slurs up that high on the fretboard. So like I said, you can leave this one out if you're having trouble with them, but nevertheless, as soon as you add a 3rd octave in, it's just that much more difficult. So just in case you're having trouble reading this and whatnot, I'll just go through it slowly, and then you can start working on it. So one group at a time. So of course you can always just start from the upper octave. So for example, you could take the high G here and just start from there, just to work on that upper section of the scale, right? And then as you speed it up, there'll be difficulties, of course. It's tough to keep the slurs clean up there, so it's always good advice to just like practice them really individually. Just to make sure that each individual one is nice and clean. So I encourage you to figure out more scales by applying slurs to them. It's pretty easy to just do, and it's a great mental workout to do them just by ear and by your knowledge of music. But that said, work on these ones first, get a feel for it, and then you can go from there. And if you're having difficulties, just go back to the easier exercises.